Now, the title for this may sound harsher than you might feel about this absolute shit show, but we'll see if that changes as we go, as only a few things are certain in life with everything else being ever-changing.
It's life, Jim, but not as we know it, not as we know it, not as we know it.
Like, for example, how a movie of this magnitude, pumped with all the pomp and circumstance, stacked with talent and potential, and reportedly considered one of the greatest creative endeavours in recent memory to come from DC, that tackles Hollywood's growing obsession with multiversal storytelling, became possibly one of the most cringe-inducing displays of comedy and action, coupled with a blatant misalignment of fan service, marred by a cavalcade of legal issues with its lead star, little time for anybody, and a plethora of poorly conceived creative decisions, abysmal CGI, and scripting better suited for a Tommy Wiseau movie.
What client?
I cannot tell you, it's confidential.
Oh, come on, why not?
No, I can't. Anyway, how is your sex life?
If it wasn't clear, The Flash is an unmitigated train wreck, with only a diamond or two being squeezed out of its 2-hour and 20-minute runtime, that left nothing but a bitter aftertaste and evidence to the fact that you can absolutely run out of creative steam when it comes to the multiverse.
There's so fucking many.
Compared to the likes of Quantum Mania, Multiverse of Madness and She-Hulk, this was almost a cleansing viewing experience, but when you weigh it against the recent works of Guardians 3 and Across the Spider-Verse, this is absolutely a futile short of a set.
Fantastic. This was a huge waste of my time.
When the initial trailers and footage began to drop for this title, my interest was admittedly piqued, but as the months have gone by and reports of extensive reshoots, legal troubles and signs that this movie basically didn't matter, following James Gunn's announcements earlier this year, that all but confirmed none of the DCEU were making it out alive for his new foundations, meant that any fascination to this had dried up quicker than a fish out of water.
Patrick! Air is not good!
Then, with the growing word of this movie's quality, uncomfortable dialogue, and equally desperate and faithless cameos starting to hit the presses, and despite the shills trying to twist the narrative that this was a revolutionary piece of comic book storytelling, the fans spoke out and the reactions were mixed. The feeling, for those that love it, believe it to be a testament to DC's cinematic and televised history, with unsettling but endearing callbacks, cheesy quips and remarks that dig into the simpler age of campiness and frivolity from titles like this.
That's a bold statement.
However, for the rest of us, this was a waste of creative potential, squandered on a character that had already seen his share of action for over a decade on weekly cable television, that continued to use a fallen star with no redeeming qualities, teeming with uncomfortable dialogue, lacked any emotional weight despite moments of credible acting, and a confusing display of jumbled cameos that really don't do justice to the rich history DC does possess, essentially meaning that The Flash was a colossal waste of time, resources and energy that really didn't provide much of a thrill. And I will confess that my love for DC doesn't go far, as practically none of the heroes or villains grabbed me in any compelling or engaging way, despite the high praise for many of them like the likes of the Batman and Joker. But what I am positive of now though is thanks to the ever aggressive state of Disney Marvel, I can at least look at both universes objectively now and make a fairer assessment without feeling overtly biased to either side, as both are as equally shit as each other.
No, he's got a point.
I went into The Flash with hope that despite the slew of controversy surrounding Ezra Miller, it could offer up something refreshing and challenging and weighted. But instead what we got was a thoughtless, soulless rendition of an otherwise enjoyable comic series that I have actually read. If you're unaware of the premise of this one, let me melt your mind for 2 seconds. The movie centres around Barry Allen struggling to come to terms over the loss of his mother several years before this, as the trial of his father creeps up on him for supposedly murdering his wife.
Good times.
However, he gets distracted by a bunch of busy work that is designed to let the Flash flex for a moment, but just comes off as uncomfortable and only achieves fist-fucking a couple of wasted cameos in for a few chuckles.
Look at the shiny.
And shortly after this little escapade, Barry gets weepy-eyed and returns to his childhood home to reminisce, but all that does is upset him further, so he goes for a quick jog, only to find himself inside of a time sphere that allows him to view the events of that day. And after taking a minute to assess what he just did and consults Bruce over this discovery, Bruce tells him it's a bad idea to fuck with time, but Barry does it anyway, figuring he could save both his parents by changing a few details that could result in a happier present.
Who's the dumbass?
Whoa! Hey, how about a little professional courtesy here?
What's that, dumbass?
Say it again.
You want me to?
I dare you.
Dumbass.
However, once the task is achieved, he gets knocked out of the time sphere by another unknown figure into an alternate 2013 where his mother's alive on the day of General Zod's arrival from Man of Steel, and coincidentally is the same day he received his powers. And in all of the kerfuffle, he meets his younger self, who he believes needs to get his powers for events to unfold as they did for him. Unaware of the fact that that's not how shit works apparently, and after getting younger Barry his powers, our Barry loses his due to them both being struck by the same lightning bolt. However, they don't have time to worry about that as Zod has begun his attack on Earth, so they need to unify the Justice League of this time. Problem is though, Aquaman was never born in this reality, Cyborg has yet to become Cyborg, and Wonder Woman just isn't fucking here.
Oh, for fuck's sake!
So they put all their eggs in one basket in the hope that Bruce Wayne does exist here and manage to locate his mansion, but upon arrival find an elderly, dishevelled Bruce Wayne, who after much back and forth agrees to help the Barrys find Superman to resolve the problem. However, upon arriving in Siberia to find him, they instead discover his cousin, Kara Zor-El, locked away and weakened. So the guys collect her, get her back to full strength, and thanks to her, our Barry manages to get his powers back too, so along with Batman they travel out to confront Zod in the desert, but things go bad when both Supergirl and Batman are killed.
Well, that was pointless.
So the Barrys try to go back and undo these events and finish the war against Zod, but regardless of how many attempts they make to change this, it turns out to be a paradox that can only be undone by our Barry reversing what he did to save his mother. However, the pair are confronted by a future 2013 Barry becoming a more monstrous form of himself, who wants to keep the loop going to grow more powerful and stop Zod, having grown an obsession over saving Bruce and Kara. And when this Dark Flash tries to stop our Barry from undoing what's been done, the friendly 2013 Barry sacrifices himself to destroy Dark Flash, thus closing the loop. And our Barry returns everything to what it was, with only an adjustment that gets his father exonerated in his trial. But as we close out, Barry realises things still aren't as they were, when he's contacted by another version of Bruce Wayne who exists in place of the one he knew. And there you have it, that was The Flash. That was the long-delayed, high-budget shamble of a movie that honestly feels like several ideas were spewed up on the board, and because all of them sounded so much fun, the writers just took a pinch of everything in this witch's brew, and rather than create a little love potion, they concocted the vial of death that has since sealed DC's coffin.
Doesn't matter. There are only 4 rules you need to remember. Make the plan, execute the plan, expect the plan to go off the rails, throw away the plan.
This is possibly one of the most jarring viewing experiences I've had for some time. It's an unfocused, incoherent, sloppy showing of a superhero flick that truthfully could have been something special. It could have been a walk through DC history, taking cursory glances at all the highlights that unified fans over the years and cemented this universe as something to be admired. Instead, what we got was a movie blown up with the sacrifice of journalistic integrity and a focus on not 1, not 2, but 3 fucking Barry Allens.
Quick, shoot me in the face!
Portrayed by one of the most unlikable actors in Hollywood that in the past was manageable in small doses but now is about as catchy as a fucking rash. Ezra Miller's performance of the character was the same tired attempts at humour cranked up by 3 previously seen in Justice League 2017, and honestly I didn't fucking appreciate it at all. The professional integrity has been damaged from Miller, and I don't understand why you would even continue with a movie of this magnitude knowing full well people won't willingly go out to support it with that name under it. And just remember as well that you cancelled the Batgirl movie before it even hit the screen.
Have a napkin, homie. You just got served.
But it would seem that Warner's business practice is, if at first it doesn't succeed, then try and try again until you receive the same results of diminishing returns that couldn't even cover your camera rentals for a month. As for the remaining cast, no one felt particularly special coming out the back of this one. I don't have a connection with Michael Keaton's Batman, so to be frank, this appearance meant nothing to me, and honestly, the guy kinda looked bored as fuck throughout this. Supergirl certainly had an edgier spin on her compared to Melissa Benoist's portrayal of the character, but as to what this version of her is like, I really couldn't fucking tell you because the movie doesn't bother to tell us either, other than humans are assholes and kept her in captivity. But the sad reality is that for the short time we did spend with her, Sasha Calle did a decent enough job in the role, but Kara was ultimately a plot device that served to push the narrative, as was Bruce. The two could have been offered something compelling here. They could have had their own arcs to undergo and come out the other side as better heroes, giving the audience a reason to be invested beside latent nostalgia and something to look at, but instead they were thrown in too late with no consideration of where to go or what to do.
That's a stupid decision that can only be made by a stupid idiot.
And in the end, all this movie manages to achieve is demonstrating how not to write a multiversal superhero flick. It's just a parade of creative ideas with no focus, no direction, and essentially bolstered by the promise of exhaustive and unengaging cameos that only work to remind people that those movies were leagues above what this tries to be. It sadly reeks of studio oversight, overcompensatory visuals that make you want to rip your eyeballs out your own fucking head, a muddled state of editing, unintelligent dialogue, and tiresome fight sequences that would have impressed maybe 20 years ago, but here just seem cheap and tacky. And ultimately, this movie leaves nothing but a bitter taste in your mouth. This, of course, is all subjective, and you're welcome to form your own opinions, as you might have already done. But I leave you with this. The Flash is simply wasted potential, rife with issues and undesirable moments that wouldn't work in a satirical take on this premise. And therefore, it is, as I said, an unmitigated train wreck. Anyway, that's all I've got for this one. Thank you for stopping by. If you like what you saw here, be sure to leave a thumbs up and subscribe for more like this, and until next time everyone, take care, and I'll see you soon.